Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent. I'm the host. And coming up, before our next guest next week, I want to talk to you regarding toxicity in Twitter. There's a lot going on these days, as we know. There's a lot of changes being made on Twitter, and unfortunately, it affects a lot of people in many ways. And going with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Neil for an update on what's happening here.
Well, I mean, everybody knows your story for why you left Twitter, and that was a big part. The toxicity of Twitter was a big part of it. We're seeing more and more really high-profile VIP people, like just recently, Mike Morris has been very, very vocal about him stepping away from Twitter because it's becoming so toxic. And I think some people know that we had advertised we were going to have Cassandra Pollock on as a guest today. It was going to be at 2:00, and we've canceled that podcast because certain things came to light. But we have to say, we have to speak truth here too, because she was accused of being a racist. Like somebody made a comment on Twitter, as people feel emboldened to do. And like I said, we know that Twitter can be a very toxic place. That's why you left it. That's why I left it. That's why people like Mike Morris have left it. So it's not cool that people can just start saying things like you're a racist and on and on. I heard from Cassandra today, and she explained her story very well. She was basically baited, like dragged into a conversation. Somebody dragged her into it. She was baited, and then everybody kind of piled onto her and said, "Well, you're being a racist," and
Ooh.
and that's the thing is, if you know anything about her, you know that she's very outspoken about identity and
Yes.
her own family. A good portion of her own family is actually Indigenous as well. So,
That's right.
so the
Yeah.
fact the fact that she has people coming after her and saying that she's racist towards Indigenous people is so off base and so incorrect, because her own family has Indigenous background. So for people just to start flinging things around and saying you're racist, you're racist, you're racist, we have to deal with that, because, and again, why we're dealing with this right off the bat is our next guest next Thursday on April 27th is a guy from South Africa. He's a person of color. And so we have to address this issue that racism is not a good thing by any stretch. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about truthfully. And the fact that people can just toss things around is not cool. And like I said, Twitter is becoming a very toxic place for that. And that is why we've stepped away from it.
Yeah, and like I've explained my story to everyone, what I went through. In Twitter Spaces, they started out really good in so many ways and different ones. I mean, there was other spaces that I just wouldn't go into because it wasn't an interest for me, because I had my own show to do on Twitter Space, and there was a little bit of conflict. So I figured, I'm staying away from that, right? Because my focus is bringing people together, right? From all backgrounds. And it doesn't matter what religion they are, bringing them all together. I mean, as an ally, as people with disabilities, political figures, you name it. And when I start hearing that they're now leaving Twitter, it really tells me that, okay, we need to now look at, as society, and look at what is going on, what is triggering people, what is causing a lot of the friction. And as we all know, I mean, there's a new feature that's been taken, well, a feature that was taken away recently, effective as of today. The blue check mark is
Oh,
taken
that was
away.
taken away. I didn't know
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah, effective
Okay.
today. Yeah, and
Okay.
apparently you have to pay now if you want to be verified. So anyone can now pay a fee. Yeah, that's right. You got to pay a fee in order to be verified. So anyone could pay a fee, and hopefully, knock on wood, they don't go and clone somebody's account and saying, "Hey, I'm so and so," because I'm verified. But you got to pay for that. And so anyway, that's just one part
Yeah.
of the equation, but the toxicity, like it's got to stop, right?
And
It's got to stop.
and I have to admit, like I've told you this, I've told other people this. Like I myself am pretty ignorant when it comes to Twitter. Like, I only got on Twitter. I think it was back in 2010, and it was only basically as a vehicle to start advertising my book, my Daddy Bentleg's book.
That's right.
And I kind of stayed off Twitter except to do that. And then you and I hooked up like what was it, 17 months ago now.
Yeah.
And I had been active on Twitter for PWD advocacy stuff prior to that, but I really only have really taken off on Twitter since you and I really have hooked up. Well, I shouldn't say that. Like, I've been pretty active since the death of my first wife and all this clawback stuff. That was when I really got active. So I guess in fairness, it has been about, maybe 9 years of me beating the drum pretty hard on advocacy because of the clawbacks. But really, I've used Twitter as a vehicle to advertise your show and to speak about advocacy and things like that. But other than that, I stay out of a lot of conversations, and I'm, like I said, I'm just purposely ignorant of kind of what goes on. But in today's, it just seems like today, like Twitter is becoming more and more and more toxic, like by the day, or by the hour even.
What I've noticed is, like, I signed on many years ago myself, and just been on there for PWD advocacy of bringing the awareness of all the inequalities, all the clawbacks. It all started with the bus pass clawback, right? And and then the inequality of the rates for persons with disabilities. Not just in British Columbia, but across the country. And and that's when I fast forward. That's when I came with the idea was, why I'm going to blend all this stuff in together, bring everybody together for the common purpose of all the inequalities. And that's when I made the Twitter space. And yeah, and as we know, I told the story before many times. I noticed over time that it was time to make that change, right? And some people think, well, where do I find the show? And again, I'll say it again, and the show has always gone to YouTube. It's
Always to
never
YouTube.
not gone to YouTube, right? So it doesn't matter what platform we launch it from. The end result, it goes to YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to use YouTube, I mean, I don't know who doesn't know how to use YouTube. I started using YouTube many years ago. A friend of mine, her 2-year-old learned how to use YouTube.
Well, there you go.
Right? Just click. How do I do this, Brett? So I'm like, oh, there you are. See?
Yeah.
So really, and it's not hard. And when it's live, when the shows are on live, you just send in your comments to myself or the guest, whoever I have on, and we'll do our very best to answer each question. And of course, going with that same part of the topic, in the near future, some people have asked me, well, when are you launching this new segment that you've been talking about of call in? I'm working on that. Okay, so as soon as I have a further announcement with that, I will let everybody know. So I'm working on that part, and it will be integrated. Just some technical stuff to figure out. But
and we're working a bit on a mailbag segment, the coffee with Brent idea.
Yes, and that's coming up very soon.
So that'll be pretty cool. That's a work in progress. But to get back to our next guest, Lethabo Segudla. So he's coming on from South Africa, a person of color, like we said, and this is why we've mentioned this whole thing about racism off the top, because it's
kind of
important.
blending that in from
It's
there.
important that it's important that we mentioned it, right?
Yeah.
that it needs to be said because again, Lethabo's coming on, and so we need to address it head on.
I want to is the lead up to our guest coming up from South Africa, and it's very important that Lethabo feels very welcome onto our show and to our guests leaving comments and
and also like high energy.
Yeah,
They're also persons of color, and they've been very gracious with your show, and they're always putting it on.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah, so Akil and David, we had them on your show, and they were great.
I want to get them back on again.
Yeah. So we just want to come clean and say, like we don't condone racism at all, and
absolutely,
neither does Cassandra. If she had an opportunity to explain herself, she herself would say it like point blank. I do not condone racism. So the fact that she got pulled into this is very unfortunate.
Racism does not have any place in the world, right? Doesn't belong in Canada, doesn't belong anywhere. And I wish that a lot of these racist comments around the world, like everywhere. I mean, if people could just somehow, maybe not always agree with everybody on every single thing, but come to a common ground and saying, okay, like person has their opinion, that's fine. I have my opinion at times, and someone could say, well, yeah, but that's wrong. Well, I mean, yeah, but that's my opinion, and I try to be very careful on staying neutral on certain things. Yeah. But when I have guests on the same thing, right? Someone will say, oh, you're leaning to this side because whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. I listen to the guests, right? And I respect every guest that I have on. Doesn't matter who it is. I love to hear every angle, every angle, what they have to talk about, and I respect everybody. Because that's life's too short, everybody, right? Life's too short.
And like I said, I mean, Twitter is becoming a place where people can just feel emboldened to just spout shit off, Well, and keyboard, right? It's just like the keyboard warriors where they can just spout shit, and it doesn't matter. They can just keep spouting whatever they want. Just type. Keyboard warrior. I'll just behind the safety of my keyboard. I'll just say whatever I want, and that's not good, and that's not healthy. And like I did today with Cassandra, I gave her an opportunity to speak and to explain what happened. And that's what everybody should do. You shouldn't just jump to a conclusion and say, you're a racist, Brent, or you're a racist, Neil, or whatever, And I mean, let people talk and not just attack. Let people talk and explain themselves rather than just
have them give their
label people one way or the other,
Yeah, you let them have their say on what they want, and I hear a lot of that in our legislature. The other day I was listening to it, and it was back and forth. I couldn't even hear what it was, like questions, answers. It's like, and the speaker said, it said, please let them talk. Like question, answer, and that's what I do on the show too. Like when I had Twitter Space, all I heard so many times, back and forth, and finally it's like, hey, like the moderator, stop, like one at a time, and so running it this way is so much smoother. It's just great having it done this way.
And again, the problem with Twitter is it's not really conversations, right? Because every tweet you're limited to 280 characters. I mean, how much can you say in 280 characters? And so then somebody can retort back and with another 280 characters, and you just keep going back and forth. But nobody's actually really talking. You're not really conversing. You're not really listening to the person. Like you and I right now, we're having a conversation, like face-to-face conversation. You don't really do that on Twitter. You just tweet stuff out and then put it out there, and then somebody comes back and attacks you for that, and then you put it out and then you attack. There's not a real back and forth conversation like we're having right now.
It can get really misconstrued, misunderstandings in a lot of things that can be typed out versus audio, because you can actually hear the person. Oh, okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah, let me explain it further this way. We're on camera, we're explaining, we're having a conversation. You
Yeah.
can't do that with somebody on Twitter because you're just like
Yeah.
280 characters and that's it.
Or a whole long message thread of this, and then it's like, well, and then somebody gets one part of that message thread, and
Yeah,
then
right.
out there, somebody comments
And
says,
misconstrues it. Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
just say, oh, that's not what the whole message thread was, right? So, yeah. So, so I, fast forward is, I welcome everybody who would love to come on to our show and be a guest also, after our next guest. If you want to come on, we can fill in a time that works good for all of us. And I'd love to hear your lived experience stories. Is it transportation? Doesn't matter. If it's transportation, accessibility, if it's tiny homes, if it's homes, purpose-built rentals, market rentals, subsidized housing. What are you going through? Or do you have a sensory issue where it comes down to fragrances in your homes that are bothering you or affecting your health? Food insecurity. Doesn't matter any of the topics.
I want to have Lorelai back on and talk about straws again, drinking straws.
Yeah.
That's one I want to reach out to again and have her back on because she's cool. And she's also a gamer. She's also a gamer too, and so it'd be cool to have her on.
Bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should get back to the guesting because you didn't actually even mention date and time yet. I don't
mention it. We said he's coming on about Wednesday.
Did we mention the time? Did we mention the time?
Well, if we did, great. If somebody caught that, but if we did, I'll be like, well, Lethabo's coming on, but when's he coming on? That's a mysterious time. Well, actually, I'll give it away right now. He's coming on Thursday, September 27th, and that
September.
No, it's not September. Everyone's going, hey, wait a minute. Hey, we're fast forward. Hey, that's one of the breaking with Brent things.
You just fast forward to like 5 months.
You see, that's one of my funny breaking with Brent things. So actually, everyone going there on that.
In September.
I had to pull a funny one, right? Because, hey, that's actually my birthday. Oh, that's why.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, September.
Remember.
So he's so Lethabo is coming on actually on April 27th. Yes, April 27th, and that'll be at 1:55.
1:55 p.m.
1:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and
we'll be dancing the night away.
In September.
Do you remember?
In September, but it's now in
September. We'll be dancing April 27th. Night away. But it's not September, it's April.
No, it's April 27th at 1:55 Pacific Standard Time. It's 4:55 Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
And April showers bring May flowers. Right?
Yeah.
We got a windstorm.
So it's gonna be great. Lethabo, we should mention, is also visually impaired like yourself.
Right.
So but it's always interesting. Like it's nice when we can, turn your show into more of a global event, right? Because we've had people from
we've had Mark from over in Europe there.
Netherlands, yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, Mark. I was thinking about the other one, but Mark from the UK.
From the UK, yeah, I know. So we're all around.
And then we had somebody from the Netherlands. I forget the name now. We had somebody from the Netherlands.
Yeah, he was for for basic. I think it was basic income.
Yeah, and then we had we've had China, and we've had the States, and now we're gonna have South Africa. So it's cool. And
we're making our rounds globally.
Nice to hear different perspectives from around the world.
Oh yeah, and then we had Aaron Richmond too. Mm-hmm. He's from the U.S. Yeah, and Aaron is legally blind too. So
actually, we should give a shout out to Aaron because that's why we got connected with Lethabo actually, because he's connected with Aaron.
That's right.
He's connected with Aaron's opinion. So that's how Lethabo reached out to us is through Aaron again. So
it all came down to the pot of spaghetti that started it all. Right?
Yeah, Aaron is kind of the gift that keeps on giving. So thank you, Aaron Richmond, again.
Thank you, Aaron. And the spaghetti, it did work, Aaron. It did work.
And he connected up with the radio as well, high energy.
Yeah.
So
And Aaron, remember the time when I told you about the guy who took his leg off and put it in the overhead area? He said you should be a comedian, Brent.
there you go.
And that's why I do my Breaking with Brent, right? When I do those segments, people say I love them. I go, well, I love doing them too because they're serious, but they're also funny. I try to put a twist in there, and also so that's why there's a new segment coming up also on top of Breaking with Brent. I'm still gonna be doing those Breaking with Brents. And
I've come up with a cool opener for that one too. I'm really happy.
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. It's coffee time with Brent and
with Brent the Weatherman.
Yeah, and so there'll be nothing. I can give a little hint on that. It won't be. It'll be not all talking about people with disabilities on that segment. It'll be something completely different. Mm-hmm. So that's a special segment altogether. But it'll be still on the same channel here. So please subscribe. Subscribe to Neil Matheson's YouTube channel. Stay up to date on all the
share, and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe because it's so important to stay up to date on all this stuff. I mean, yes, I'll probably throw in there some people with disabilities into Coffee Time with Brent, but there's a twist. There's some twists here and there. We want to make it entertaining, so it'll be myself on. And perhaps Neil might be on with me. I guess Stay tuned. You'll find out.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Or it might be Birdie. It could be anybody.
Could be Sonia.
It could be Sonia.
You could be having coffee with Sonia.
It could be Aaron Richmond.
Could be Aaron
Richmond. Could be anyone.
Yeah.
Could be Cassandra.
Michael Bublé.
Hey, there we are. Or it could be Tim Hortons. Bublé bits.
You'll never know. You'll never know if you don't tune in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or it could be the new look. Actually, that's one thing I want to mention before we end the segment.
Sponsors. Can we get a sponsor?
Yeah. I got the new look. New look eyewear. These are my new glasses. They almost look like my other ones, but they're a little bit bigger. Same color, but a little bit bigger, and it's good. The clarity is great. Whole brand new eye test done right from scratch. And for me, everything's still stable, still the same, which is a good thing. So I guess that's a good thing that came out of the whole thing. I didn't have to deal with spec savers. That was a nightmare I went through. I don't want anyone to ever have to go through that. I mean, 3 times. Back and forth over to, someone says, well, why didn't you get them locally? Well, I did get them locally, bad experience. So I went over the mainland, over to lower mainland of British Columbia, because I just didn't want to deal with all the toxicity of what I had to go through, the bad experience. So if I go to another location, it'll be better, right? No, it just continued on. And so I had to keep the ferry back and forth, and that added up to a lot of expense for me. And so finally I was done with it. I came across the new look, and they gave me a new specs.
Extra handsome Brent.
Yeah. I had to pay for a new eye test done because it wasn't covered under my medical. They said, unfortunately, your medical won't cover it. It has to be once every 2 years. So yeah, that was unexpected expense, but you know what? It's worth getting, keeping your eyes intact, and and it can really amplify it, right? Yeah. But no, it's good. It's good clarity. Hey, can you turn this glasses too? Anyway, thanks everyone.
So before we leave, just do one more.
Yeah. So that is
one more shout out to Lethabo.
April 27th, Lethabo, and he is coming on Thursday, April 27th at 1:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's 4:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's not September 27th, it's April 27th.
September.
Oh, yeah, September.
We'll be dancing the night away.
September.